The only realistic solution they have to keep that weight off is to stay on the drug. Well, what if that's a drug that you're not meant to stay on? You don't have diabetes. You're taking it for weight loss.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Gym Break Cast, where we sit down with visionaries in the field that, you know, may go out and get a lot of those visionary integrator type ideas through, their normal daily gym break. Today I have a special guest. I'm actually kind of surprised. We kind of chatted about this before, that we actually have a lot in common and a lot of people in common. So I'm surprised we haven't met before. So this is going to be a fun conversation for everybody. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Zach, we must walk past each other at least half a dozen times at these different industry events and just narrowly missed our introduction. But yeah, my name's Nathan Hyland. I am a fitness, wellness, and biotech consultant. My firm is called the Hyland Global Business Consultants. And yeah, I most recently I kind of find myself in this niche, this kind of mixture of worlds of wellness and biotech. And that's where I've kind of tried to build my strategy and my uniqueness around.
Can you explain to everyone a little bit about, because it's probably a pretty diverse, and we can get into something else here in a minute, but it's probably a pretty unique niche. So explain to everyone a little bit on how that as a consultant, how it can, how it really works.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first love and where I have most of my experience is in the fitness and wellness industry. You know, like you, very passionate about making that my home and making it the best I can be through my small contributions. About 3 years back, when I left my old job at the National Academy of Sports Medicine, NASM, NASM, as a lot of people know, I started my consulting career. And actually, my first client was in biotechnology, which is, I would say it's adjacent, at best to wellness, right? And I really wanted to kind of learn a new craft, learn a new industry, still keeping fitness and wellness close by, but kind of seeing what that space was like. And in that, I realized that there's a space between that. I'm like, at some point, these are going to merge. Like they're siloed, they're running in different tracks. But I just saw at some point there's going to be a convergence. I didn't know what it was. It's not like I'm some soothsayer or, I'm especially wise. I just had a feeling that we were going to see these two entities come together. And sure enough, with the progress of peptides, specifically GLP-1 receptor agonists, which we're seeing now that were used as a diabetes drug, now being used for weight management, weight loss, those worlds have come crashing together. And so that's where I was kind of an early adopter in that space. Not that I'm an expert in biotech, but because of the people I work with, because of the people that I manage relationships with there, and because of my background in fitness and wellness, I'm able to be kind of, I guess, a little bit of a liaison, kind of diplomat between those worlds as they're kind of coming together.
Okay, so do you work with studio owners in specific, or do you work with the leadership roles? Can you explain a little bit on how you sink in the biotech side? And you mentioned a lot about weight loss, so I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Not to get over the head of some of our viewers, but
Yeah. My primary stay is in fitness education, so the fitness professional. So these are people that are plugging into the clubs and studios. I'm not really working with the clubs and studios directly. My partners, like, so, as a consultant, the partners that I work with are usually one of two types of organizations. It's usually fitness education or fitness equipment. That's on the fitness and wellness side. And then, apps and wearables and things like that. But it's more, it's the thing that attaches to the coach, maybe attaches to the end user. Clubs and studios are usually customers of those partners of mine. I don't usually work with them directly, right? But I have relationships there, good relationships with the health clubs and studios. And then on the biotech side, I have one client is iMetabolic Biopharma. Basically, I'm taking strategic measures to bring that organization and Dr. Urban Kiernan, who's the chief science officer, the CEO, the founder, into my world of wellness, which now he's been actually like a pretty renowned key opinion leader within the health and wellness space now because he was at he was in the room where it happened, where these GLP-1 receptor agonists were created. He's the one actually innovating all these different scary things that I think we as fitness professionals, I know at least for me when I was coming up in the industry, big pharma is bad. And, of course, I still very much believe in doing things from a preventative nature first, right? But I think people kind of lump biotechnology and big pharma together,
Mm.
and they're two completely different animals, right? Biotech are the innovators. These are very often the good guys, the do-gooders that want to create new things to help save lives, to help counteract certain things, to put more time on the clock so that you can bring in a healthy lifestyle and not just add more years, but lifespan. We're talking about quality of health. So that's where I'm kind of building my brand around, is bringing these worlds together, having these conversations. Hey, these guys aren't as bad as you think. Come and talk to them, seed the table, and then ultimately making partnerships and strategic deals off of that. I know it's a very like 50,000-foot view, but
Yeah.
that's
Your vision, man. It's a good vision.
right.
It's it is one of those fields. I mean, even me myself, like it can get scary because you hear so much, and especially with everything that's happened the last couple of years, you hear multiple sides of, like you said, big pharma. And I look at weight loss stuff, for instance, and you think exactly what you said. Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, is it gonna be something? I think as fitness enthusiasts, anyone that's either going to the gym, or even owners of studios that are looking to bring in products to their location, they have to think about the security risk, right?
Yes.
And I don't think I think most of us, we try to live as a healthy lifestyle as possible. To
Yes.
a degree, of course. I still, I hate to say this, but I still love my occasional Diet Coke.
Same.
But
We all have our thing, man. Like there's no shaming. We all got our thing.
But, uh, but you have to explain to me a little bit about the advances. Like, how are things changing? Because I had a conversation with my wife the other night, because I'm getting to the age right now, for instance, where my stress is so high because of having the 3 children that I told you about pre-recording, that like I'm losing my hair like crazy. And I've never been one in my genes in my family to have hair loss. And so like I took it as a point of like, okay, this has to be a health issue, not necessarily a stress issue, not necessarily a genetics issue. Um,
Sure.
but then I looked at her and I said, dude, we're in 2024, man. Why don't we have anything that like actually like that I have tried that actually does what it's supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about the weight loss stuff, right? That's what you hear. You say, hey, why would I buy something like that that's just going to either one, cut all my muscle and be very unnatural, or two,
Totally.
put us in a situation where it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I think so. Let's take a step back. When we're talking about drug and different, let's just call them innovations, right? There's like small molecule things that have been around for years, like NSAIDs and antibiotics that have decades and decades of research, and they're very effective, very often um, very, very low cases of anybody dying from taking them, like it's a tainted batch or something like that, but very, very few and far between. That's the stuff that's been around for sometimes, 100 plus years, right? Then you have this new stuff, which is so that's small molecule, that's usually oral, you take it. You have these newer innovations, which are called large molecules. These are usually injectables. These are things that are like the newer innovations that maybe don't have those decades and decades of research, which I'm very much on the same camp as you, kind of that you alluded to. Hey, look, these are cool. Let's develop them, but let's be realistic about this. Let's not just pump up all the great things that they could do. Let's look at the stuff that we're not sure what's going to happen yet. And I think in this society, a guy with a lab coat and some glasses stands there on a video and tells you, hey, this is safe and effective and it can do all these great things. There's like this willingness to just trust that. And especially if you're someone that struggles with weight, I mean, I totally get it. If there's this miraculous thing out there that can make you drop loads of weight, which a lot of people have started taking these different biologics, these GLP-1 receptor agonists, and they're losing a bunch of weight. What we don't know yet is what happens when you stay on that long term. We think that if you take it for a short term and use it as a way to curb your appetite, take in less calories, let and I'm not a scientist, like I have a degree in exercise science, my master's in exercise science. I don't subscribe to being a society, scientist, but having worked alongside these guys long enough in biotechnology, obviously I understand some of the mechanisms of how these work, right? GLP-1s are, naturally in our body. We take these GLP-1 receptor agonists. It does the job of curtailing these things and blah, blah, blah. You start to lose the weight. But what happens when you don't use it as a temporary crutch, but you stay on it for long term? There hasn't been a lot of people that have been on these long term to really know exactly what's going to happen. We're already starting to see some speculation and some studies of what could happen. I always go back to it's kind of like some weight loss surgeries that existed before. If you go in, you do these bariatric procedures and you intervene many times, sometimes they have to cut a little bit of weight because sometimes people were too heavy to even have these surgeries performed. So they had to manage their weight and lose it a little bit. But it was basically this milestone they had to hit in order to be eligible for the bariatric surgery. But they didn't learn any true skills, right? On behavior change, the right things to eat. Sometimes they're working with dietitians, maybe not. They could have just been starving themselves to get to that milestone weight, which isn't a healthy protocol either. I think of these GLP-1 receptor agonists as the same thing. Many people are getting on these with absolutely no behavioral change. They're not working with a personal trainer lots of times. They're not working with a nutritionist. They're not working with anyone from a behavioral change standpoint. It's either a telehealth appointment, which many people are doing, or it's a doctor that just gives them the prescription, right? They're taking this, they're losing weight. What's going to happen when you get off of that if you haven't done any of the work to put in beforehand? Almost all the time, they put all that weight back on. So what's the only realistic solution they have to keep that weight off is to stay on the drug. Well, what if that's a drug that you're not meant to stay on? You don't have diabetes. You're taking it for weight loss. Like I said, we don't know yet. So I'm not an advocate of these drugs. I'm not a naysayer of these drugs either, because I think some people can use them for life-changing and life-saving scenarios. They're so overweight. It's beyond being overweight. They have full metabolic syndrome, right? They have these 4 or 5 different indicators, lipid metabolism, cardiac risk, where if they don't get on this, they're on a path to an early grave. Those people should probably be more candidates of these things, but working with other professionals, dietitians, personal trainers, people that can actually help with their behavioral change so they can get off it. And now we save their life and they can maintain a healthy life. That would be, I think, the utopian best case scenario. I haven't seen a lot of people advocating it that way or doing it that way. A lot of people are just getting on these things blindly and thinking that it's a miracle drug. And I hope that it is, but I don't think that it's going to be that way. There are going to be, unfortunately, I think some very bad side effects to these things. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong, but we weren't meant to stay on these things forever from a weight loss solution.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, some of them work very well. Like, you can cut, like, weight pretty fast. What was the one years ago? I don't remember. It was, like, 15 years ago that was just, like, could cut your weight fast, but it was pretty damn.
Fedra.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you're taking methamphetamines, that's gonna make you race around. Those things were crazy, right? And just like anything, like whether it's a small molecule drug, whether it's a large molecule drug, you're injecting it, you're taking it orally. Whether you're getting a surgery, like the bariatric surgery, anytime there's that intervention without the work up here, I think it's not going to be something that's sustainable. And I was talking to Neil Spruce, who you might know, such a wise man, like been in the industry for a long time, done some big things, and he had some really interesting takes on this. I won't share everything because like I probably won't get it right. I don't want to speak for him, but he said something really compelling. He said if weight loss and eating and behavior change and all these things were going to work, they would have worked already, right? Because we do have this obesity epidemic, and I think we do have to be careful. There's a toting of this line of this body positivity movement, right? Where yes, of course, we don't want to fat shame people or make them feel like they're any less than you know someone that's of healthy weight, but we can't glamorize it, and I think we can't. I don't like the term healthy at any weight because the truth is, when you do have BMI It's not the be all end all, right? Body fat is,
I hate it. I hate BMI. Like I
yeah,
remember when I
I'm
was
technically
flipped,
borderline
right?
overweight,
Yeah, me
like,
too. Me too.
yeah, it's silly. So we all have to be a little bit more practical. Like, I wish everybody would read the book Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. We need this coming back of just critical thinking, right? What does the data suggest? What are some ways that I can lower my subjective thinking and think a little bit more objectively? Talk to these people in different industries and bring them to the table. We're not doing a lot of that, right? It's like shouting, it's like angry, it's like making all these suppositions. And I got off on a tangent there. Oh yeah. So going back to what Neil said, which I think is brilliant. That's so smart. Like it does work. We know behavior change, managing weight through exercise and diet. That is the best thing for long term, getting all the endocrine system, all the neurotransmitters. Like you earned it. You feel good. You're just living your best life when you do it that way. If that was going to work, and we as coaches we're going to be able to coach people into that lifestyle, we wouldn't have an obesity epidemic in this country. The simple fact is we do. So, can we use these GLP-1 receptor agonists as a tool? I believe yes. But for whatever reason, we as people, especially we as Americans, we tend to abuse things. We take something that could be good, we just bastardize it and we make it suck, right? So, like, once again, I hope I'm wrong, but I see that happening with these interventions and it's going to be we have to work together biotechnology and wellness industry we got to stop being at each other's throats we have to work together and that's where I'm doing my best to manage these conversations and bring the right people together find solutions that's what I'm trying to do as a consultant.
Beautiful. So, one thing that really came up there for me, and what probably a lot of listeners will wonder is like, okay, well then how does this help me as a studio owner, right? Um, and you said something in there that was quite interesting to me as you were talking about really towards the positioning. Something that really hits me quite heavily and with what I do is positioning of these studios. So, what types of ways, if you're trying to get some of these better products, not just out there, but getting them to these studios in certain ways,
Yeah.
would that studio need to be positioned, and or how could they position themselves around this type of these types of products?
Yeah, look, I think it starts with knowledge. There's some really good education out there about this for fitness professionals. There's actually, I don't know if you know, do you know Bob Thomas?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's been around the industry for years. He owns a company called Next Gen 360, and they've built an entire ecosystem around making this solution for gyms and health clubs. And they do a good job. Like they lay out the literature. I think if you're gonna take these things, which people are gonna take them, like we can't buy we as fitness industry, we cannot be as naive to say that we're going to stop people and tell them not to take these. It's like, I think you need to pass along the information. You need to be a conduit for this. Let them know the potential upside, the potential risks. That's when you're being objective in the middle. And of course, these guys, Next Gen 360, they have basically a CRM and a telehealth plugin for these clubs where trainers can get their weight loss clients on these peptides. And there's other peptides as well. Like there's some really good peptides out there for muscle growth stimulation, things that might be good for neurodegenerative disease. We don't want to ignore these peptides. GLP-1s get the most press because they're up here, but there's a bunch, BPC 157, just a variety of different peptides that have some things we should really be looking at for as professionals for our clients, for longevity, for lean muscle, which helps you live a longer, better life. It's connected to things like people with more lean muscle are less likely to get Alzheimer's, less likely to get cancer. This is all clinically proven. So why would we ignore this stuff? Oh, just take a multivitamin, lift weights, and drink protein. Okay, old man, like, and I put my millennials into that bucket too because I even hear people, my age. It's like, dude, like we can't be so close minded. Like let's just look at the best available information, the peer reviewed information on where it is now, and just be able to be good communicators of our clients of what literature is out there, what we know, what we don't know yet. and then let them make the decision because they're going to ask us, and we shouldn't shoot down things that could potentially really help them in life. So, anyways, as a club and studio owner, you're managing fitness professionals. I think it's important to remind them stay within your scope, right? We can't prescribe things. We can't tell people. We can't even tell them what to eat, what not to eat. Like that's outside of our scope of practice as exercise professionals, right? Dietitian, nutritionist, they need to be doing that. But we are the quarterback, right? We're kind of player coaches. We're helping them in this overall scheme of wellness in life. And so I think solutions like, Bob's and other ones out there, put it in the doctor's hands. Like, hey, I can tell you this and this. I don't want to go too far outside of scope. Look into the upsides for you, but be aware that, XYZ. Like just give them little nuggets and then pass them on to the pros. You're the quarterback, you're handing off the ball, you're tossing the ball, you can't run every play. That's the advice that I would give the club operators is plug in with the professionals and start expanding your network because you're not going to be able to stop these peptides. These peptides are everywhere. People are getting them illegally. They're buying them on the black market. Now, with the new administration coming in, they've already promised that things like stem cells and peptides are going to be more readily available through things like compounding pharmacies. So once again, the wave is coming like this to think that you're going to stop it. You're not. The best thing you can do is educate your professionals and make sure they stay within scope of practice.
Well, that brings up two things for me. One, um, I always talk about unique ways that these studio owners can build strategies through unique vertical partnerships, not vertical
Yes.
partnerships. And you brought up something really interesting there, which was, if you're positioning yourself as a health and wellness type studio, then, there's nothing wrong with trying to find a local doctor that's really passionate about this stuff, a nutritionist, and partnering with them to help with referrals and just help with the overall. If you have the very similar audience, it's going to go hand in hand within those relationships. Um, but
Exactly that. Yeah.
but two, you and I were talking beforehand how like we said, we know we cross path. I mean, I think we were both at the Beyond Active event in New York a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
something that was said on stage, something that really hit me was the talk about how we're trying to improve not just the physical health, but the mental health, and utilizing locations to really focus on the mental health aspect of the growth, right? And you mentioned in there a little bit about, some of these studios possibly, having some sort of integration with telehealth. A lot of studios may not even know what telehealth is.
Yeah.
Fine. So, how do you feel, some directions that these studio owners can take to help, solidify some of this? Because one thing, my wife's a therapist. My wife works in insurance. She works, so she's pretty common in this field. And I've always talked to her about. I'm like, after the Beyond Active event, I'm like, man, why haven't we found a studio yet that's kind of done some sort of hybrid model of, not just the physical health side, and talking about physical, but the mental health, bringing in
Yeah.
therapists and bringing in people that can help people with the mental side of things. And so
Yeah.
I feel like these drugs are affecting mental health. And how do you think that they can benefit from the mental health side of taking some of these drugs?
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. As someone that I've used therapy a lot in the past. I used to be like it was like stigma. And like the nice thing is, especially like, this lately this newer generation, like these Gen Z kids, they are really open. They are super emotionally intelligent. And I think we need more of that in our society. Like why would you not advocate for someone that might be struggling in secret to go and get therapy, and especially as exercise professionals,
Mhm.
right? So to your point, I would love to see, whether it's like an in office solution or some type of amalgamation of the mental and physical side. I like you, I haven't seen that a lot, but I think at least opening up the network, like having someone that you can say, hey, even if it's betterhelp.com or one of these different tele options that are out there. I've used telehealth therapy. I've done it in person. You're going to benefit from both. And who hasn't struggled with mental health at times? Even if you don't have mental illness, like we're all going to go through times of man, this is a little bit more than just having the blues. This is more than just a little bit of, occasional anxiety. Like you might be getting anxiety attacks. You might be having depression. Of course, you need someone to diagnose you with that. But if you feel a little bit off, go in when the check light engine comes up. Don't go in when the engine starts smoking. You see those early indications, especially like as personal trainers, we need to be more aware. Like, I said something nice about Gen Z. Now I'm going to rag on them a little bit. I see these young guys that are trainers and they're on their phones and they're talking to other trainers while they're training their client. Be present with your client. They like you could pick up on little cues. Like maybe they're super happy go lucky and they're just looking at the floor. They feel a little bit more detached. That's a really good opportunity for you to come in and be like, hey, is everything okay? And if they share something with you, obviously we can't give them therapy as fitness professionals, but we can be like, hey, I really encourage you, like talk to somebody, you know, go on these different links that are out there, betterhelp.com, you know, work, hey, I have someone that was recommended to you by a client, check them out, give them a call. We need to be aware and pick up on these cues and be able to shamelessly say that to our clients. And not just people that are clients, like in our circle. Like we need to look out for each other more. Like somebody's struggling, they put like a cryptic message on social media. Like don't screenshot it, send to a friend and make fun of them. Like they might be crying out for help. Like we're so willing to just, I think, like pile on and just be mean to somebody when in reality we don't know what their reaction is that's going on. Like they might be going through something really tough. Take that opportunity to lend a hand. Send them a link to betterhelp.com, have a simple conversation with them that isn't along the therapeutic route. That's just a listening ear. There's so many things we could do to help each other with mental health. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of interesting because something that I have been really trying to promote, especially after, what we all went through 4 years ago, there was this huge fad where everyone was working from home,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of, I mean, I've been working at an in-home office for, I'd say, almost 10 years now, and it's not all but it's cracked up to be, you
Mhm.
know? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that, studios in particular have, an advantage right now that a lot of, other types of, industries do not, and that is the experience and the community building, aspect. I think that we all wanna find a place to have a community. We all wanna find a place to have like-minded people that we can work with and feel that abundance when it comes to not just the teammates in the gym, but the other members. And so back to that mental health situation, that's why it's in the positioning side, I think that's why it's so important for these studios to look at the bigger vision of what they're trying to accomplish. And I'm gonna bring in a little bit of my of what I do here, just so you're aware.
Yeah.
Stop, looking at lead generation and as, hey, let's just call a million people and just look at them as a number on the screen. Like
Yeah.
technology is great. It's gonna just like biotech, it's gonna continue to evolve. But I mean, I'm old school. Like I'd rather go and I'd rather have a conversation with someone on a phone, right? Like
Anytime.
in person, and so try to do a hybrid of that. Like how do you kind of build a hybrid if you're talking to personal trainers, for instance, that are looking to grow an online business, you still have to think about that in-person type of feel where gyms
Yeah.
are thinking about like, hey, this is our community. Like what you said with positioning. If like you're really focused on mental health, like have culture stuff within the organization that allows people to get, you know, therapy, for instance.
Sure.
Or, the personal trainers, like you said, stay present. No,
Yes.
I'm sorry, no phones. Like, I mean, my biggest pet peeve when I go to the gym, or I go to a studio, any kind, is when someone's sitting there on their chair for like, it's okay to check like your weight or, put some numbers in, but when you're sitting there for like 15 minutes on a bench and you're just like on your phone, I'm like, dude, like we're here for a reason, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, bringing in those aspects, those values, into the organization, I think is key.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you're even if you're taking, 1 to 8 work to rest ratios, what is that? Average set is about 15 seconds. So it's 2 minutes max. You should be on the machine checking memes between sets. I totally hear you, man. Yeah, look, I would love to see the fitness industry. Like we're such a great industry. Like I've worked in other industries. I got my degree in finance. I worked in finance for a little bit. Went and worked for my dad's construction company, underground construction. I've worked in different industries. I don't want to be anywhere else. I love the fitness industry. I love that we're all walks of life and we're generally I like to think we're pretty open-minded. We're probably more open-minded than other groups, but we can still be really closed-minded and really judgmental as an industry.
Mhm.
And I would advocate for us because I've been like I'm 38 years old. I started when I was 17. So 21 years I've been doing this. I'm kind of an old guy in the fitness industry now. We could do a better job at not being judgmental and being more open-minded. Okay. So that's a call out to younger generations, older generations. We need to do better. People are coming to us for answers. We can't just make something up. Know what you know, but don't be afraid to say, guess what? You got me, you got my whole network. I got a nutritionist for this. I got a mental health person for this. It's on you. It's your responsibility as a fitness professional, as a gym operator, as a studio operator. You have to have the network because these people are putting their lives in your hands. And here's something else while I'm on it. I got to get on my soapbox real quick. We have completely devalued education in our industry.
Yep.
I'll say that again. We have completely devalued education in our industry. It's fine if you got a 4-year degree in poli science. You realize it's not for you and you want to come to fitness. But it's on you to make up the gaps of what you know about Senate, House committee hearings and all that stuff you learn in poli sci to knowing about the basics of the human movement system, how to do assessments, holding a credential. Dude, it's $600 a year to get a certification from, I work with NCSF, awesome certification for CPT, strength and conditioning. It's $600 a year. And you're complaining about that? You just spent 80K you're not even using on a poli sci degree. Get the education, quit complaining about it, recertify every 2 years. We have to own these things. We need a renaissance in caring again. Okay. Like there's too many people in our industry that are gym bros, that are social media influencers. Yeah. Okay. You look great with your shirt off. Give me a basic assessment that you would show a first day client. Show me how you would do, questionnaire to find out where they are, where they want to be, find out their hopes and dreams. If you can't do one of those two things, you don't belong in our industry, and our industry deserves better. It's on you to start caring about the education, being open-minded, and stop being so judgmental. That's it. I won't rant anymore. I just deeply care about this industry. We have great people in the industry, but there's older people that have been doing it for a long time that are a little bit closed-minded, and there's newer people coming in and think they have it all figured out. I like to think the really good people are somewhere in the middle that can have these conversations, that can call people to the carpet, that are emotionally intelligent and can reflect within. And we can't be afraid to call people out. Like everybody's so scared to like offend somebody. Offend somebody. These lives are in our hands. We need to say things that are going to get people's attentions and get them thinking critically in these situations. So sorry, Zach. I didn't mean
No, I mean
I didn't mean to go
great.
preacher mode on you.
Well, that's authenticity right there because I think that, one of the big things I do as a consultant is we really try to work on helping these studio owners become more personal brand minded, right?
Yeah.
Figure out who you are, figure out your values. I mean, even me, like, you get to the point when you're online and you're speaking, all the stuff that takes off is all funny enough, all the stuff that I like to rant about that like I feel like
Yeah.
no one's gonna like. So you know, um,
Yeah.
or judge you, and it's like, "Oh, yeah," and so now I see those dislikes, and I'm like, "Oh, I see you. I see
Yeah.
you disliking my comment."
It's
But,
but
it goes back to online, right? Like, I think that, especially with all of the AI stuff coming out right now, it's even worse because we're just getting regurgitated
totally.
information that's
Yeah.
all stuff that's already out there, and it's just people think, "Oh, I'm just gonna AI it and chat GPT it or whatever you're using," which there's definitely things that AI is gonna be suitable for, but I'll take LinkedIn, for instance. And this is a great example. Me personally, like, I wanna be authentic, so why the heck am I gonna go on LinkedIn and let them write an automated post for me?
Exactly.
You know, back to your stuff, like, be okay with talking about, things that you've seen or things that you're doing to help improve people's lives. I think that one thing that I really preach, especially when it comes to these multi-studio locations, is like, hey, like your trainers are your personal brands, and so they are part of your brand. So leverage them to be able to talk about the things that they're good at or they want to know about. Like
Yes.
different types of exercises, different types of diets. I was on keto for I was actually on keto for a whole year at one point. The healthy version, not dirty keto. I was on the healthy version, so I still had a
Yeah.
lot of fiber, carbs, and all that stuff.
Sure,
And it
sure, sure.
it lost my weight, but it wasn't until I was getting close to the end of that that I realized that, like this is an extreme diet. Like
Hey.
I'm not getting my magnesium, I'm not getting my potassium because these foods don't allow me to get my micronutrients. And so why would I stay on, and that's funny enough, when I started losing my hair too and on keto.
Interesting.
Why would I stay on a diet if I know it's going to not give me the nutrients I need, right? Just to lose
Totally.
weight. And back goes
Yeah.
back to your original cycle, back to the original point of this conversation. Why would you sell drugs, protein powder, whatever you're selling? Why would you sell something that I mean, I have a friend, for instance, when he first started out working out, this was years ago, he was just buying protein powder from, Walmart, I think, at like the $10 cheap ones. He went to the doctor like 3 weeks later. He's like, I had to stop taking protein powder. I'm like, why? He's like, because he said my cholesterol was so high from like I eat at McDonald's every day, and I'm like, dude, I told you that shitty protein powder has like really bad, like it really
Yeah.
messes with your cholesterol levels. Like you just have to get
Interesting.
healthier stuff. Spend a little extra couple dollars to get something a little more healthy, right?
Yeah, it's I tell people this all the time. The things that we're willing to spend a stupid amount of money on, materialistic things that aren't actually gonna add value to our lives, or, we use this term lifespan or health span, not just longevity, living longer, but quality life. Why would you not curtail the spending on those materialistic things and reinvest? Dude, like my most of my shirts are free jujitsu shirts or clothes I get for Christmas. And my mom probably got this for Christmas for me like 5 years ago. Maybe.
My wife makes fun of me because I have the same. She's like, "Why do you buy plain shirts all the time?" And when you buy them, they're like cheap. I'm like, "Well, one, I'm a brander. Why would I go out and spend money to brand somebody else's company? It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me." But two, it's like I've always been a simplistic guy when it comes to spending. Like I'm like, I don't need things to make me happy. I need people. So
Yeah. And experiences, right? Like he was something, the human experience. Like when we think about how short life really is, you want to have quality life and you want to do cool things, right? If you're buying materialistic things, it's eating up your resources to be able to do both of those. So people always say, "Oh, I need to spend less money shopping. I need to lose weight." They say, I need to." When you actually make it actionable and you can visualize, and this is why I love journaling, this is why I love vision boards. Really visualize what you want your future to look like.
no,
Like, hey, like, I'm 38. I want to be able to do jujitsu well into my 70s and 80s. And this is realistic because people do it. And if, just like the Anthony Hopkins line, what's a movie called where they're hunting the bear? And he goes, "What one man can do, another man. And if somebody else can do it, you can do it." And visualize it. And when you have a reason, when you have a why, you will find yourself spending less money on materialistic things and reinvesting into your health, getting the better quality protein powder, giving yourself a trip that's not just for Instagram and feeding once again, your materialism, but for your soul. Being able to do something you've always wanted to do, being brave, being courageous. And if you're a coach and you're an operator and you're listening to this, that goes for you. If you're not doing this, you don't have the ability, you don't have the conviction to tell your trainers. Then your trainers don't have the ability and the conviction to tell their clients, right? This ultimately starts with us as leaders. We have to have those courageous moments. We're willing to sacrifice here, like like my car is from 2016. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, if I pull up to an important business meeting, it's vacuumed, it's clean, I park. I do not need the nicest car out there. And I don't think, like, even if I became a multi-millionaire, I don't know that I would spend money on materialistic things. Maybe. I can't say for sure, but it goes back to your point around the like low quality protein. This is something so buy the high quality foods, the high quality supplements. When you're doing things like keto, if you need keto, I used to do keto to cut weight for MMA fights,
Mhm.
like the week of going to ketosis, like you smell terrible, like you're,
That first 2 weeks, man. That first 2 weeks, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When you get the keto flu, but guess what? Goes back to being somewhere in the middle. You can be fat efficient, lower carbs, managing your sugar, eating high quality foods, eating within, calories or a slight calorie deficit just to maintain or slightly lose weight. And guess what? You can still have ketones present without being in full ketosis. And that's when your body's fat efficient. So it goes back to knowledge and the conviction to actually do something about how you want to achieve your dreams. And it starts with you as the operator, down to your coaches, down to your clients. We have to own that as leaders in this industry.
Yeah, and the hard part it was something that I've slowly learned over the years in working in this, and this goes back to what you said with, like, we need to change things in certain ways. Like, we're very good at what we do. Like, the fitness industry, it's unique, and people are adapt to change, but I feel like there's a lack of leadership, and I think that there comes a place where these operators, these marketing directors, these operation directors, um, they need to come in and start, becoming the vision, helping become the visionaries of what they're doing. It's so easy. And that this is easy for me to say because I told you at the beginning here, I am an integrator at heart. So like I have to try to separate out my integrator time, which is, get the work done, do what I need to do to start adapting in the visionary time. Like I need
Yeah.
out. And so back to what you were saying, like visionary time doesn't seem as impactful, and this is from a personal level, this is from a work level, but it's actually going to make all the difference to give
Yes.
yourself 2 to 3 hours a day going and working out by yourself. Like if you're a trainer still, like, okay, have that time for yourself still to keep yourself enjoying training. It's funny when I talk to a lot of studio owners, they're probably at about the spot of like 250 to 500K. They're still pretty small. They're they're talking about how they're burnt out because they have
Yeah.
a place where they're like, oh, I went from training to operating. Everyone tells them, oh, well, you just need to delegate. You just need to delegate. And I'm like the exact opposite. I'm like, no, dude, I want you to take an hour and I want you to go enjoy your workouts again like you used to.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
go for a run, take a walk with your family, like do something that's going to help you personally to reset and allow yourself to evolve your thinking.
I think that's a great point, man. And if you are an operator and you started off as a coach and you still love coaching, I mean, look, like, yeah, you're going to delegate a lot of stuff you need to grow and scale. But there's nothing wrong with keeping a couple of your favorite clients on the book a couple times a week. Like, go back and do what you love coaching. You won't get rusty. You're feeding that joy. Maybe there's a new trainer coming on and he has a chance to shadow you and kind of learn from the best while you're doing it. Yeah, man, I'm a big fan. Like, I've gotten good at delegating the things that, the quadrant, the things we're good at, the things we like to do, the things we're not good at, and we don't like to do. That's the stuff that we want to delegate and get it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Because I have a couple associates, I have an intern, like that stuff brings them joy and they're good at it. I suck at it and I don't like to do it. Get that off your plate, right? But the stuff that brings you joy that maybe isn't super high value, indulge yourself, right? Like there's a justifiable reason for you to still do that on maybe not a day-to-day business, but a couple times a week. Well, yeah, business needs to thrive, but you need to thrive too. And you
Yeah.
should always run a line through those points, right? It's the genius of the end, just like Jim Collins said in Good to Great. Sometimes you don't have to, it's not one or the other. Like good innovative leaders, intellectual people, like they problem solve, they figure out how they can do both.
Yeah, yeah. I heard a good quote yesterday that was actually hit me quite strong on a podcast I was on yesterday. It was like too many studio owners focus on who they want to be, not what they want to build. And I think that's an interesting quote that made me start to think because I'm very similar to that. Like I had a point where and I know you speak too, so you probably had to go through, you probably still write your own speeches, right? You
Yeah.
probably still write your own content because that kind of stuff brings you joy. but
Absolutely.
allow yourself on those things that I do not want to do. The funny thing I think that happens to most of us is we get so caught up in the things that need to get done, even though we don't want to do them, that we get stuck in this mode here, and we forget that like it actually holds us back from allowing ourselves to do those things that we want to do. Um,
Yeah.
and start small. Like for me, for instance, I had an iWatch for years, and just getting notifications on my watch every day was like, and watching emails was something that I'm like, I need to cut this out. And so
Yeah.
back like your ring, like you talked about, you got your ring, I got the garment, and I just turned everything off because I'm like, I would rather have a watch that can track things that I can look at my time than
That's
that's
it.
the system,
Yeah,
to
we can't become slaves to our devices, and I say that as someone that struggles with that. Like, I have to put limits on my phone, even though like social media is a great tool. Like at first it's like, man, like because I love memes, dude. I like if I put like your Diet Coke is my memes. Like that is my unhealthy indulgence that I like. If I did it a little bit, it wouldn't be bad. I friggin' love memes so much. Like, that's my joy. I don't watch TV, I watch Instagram Reels, right? Um, and so, like, I would take the app off my phone, wouldn't use it for weeks. Then I got really into LinkedIn again. I was early adopter of LinkedIn, and then I started doing LinkedIn again a few years, and I'm like, "Now this is kinda becoming like a vice because you wanna check and what's going on," and there are brilliant neuroscientists that sit in a room and figure out how to poison our minds with these apps. You have to remember that. Like, you are not a user of these things. They want you to be a slave. Like, literally, this isn't conspiracy theory. They have people that come up with ways to make these algorithms addictive. And if you don't think that you're an addict, you know how that goes, right? Usually, if you're denying being an addict, you are one. Like, we're all addicted to our phone. So you have to actively, like, I have a Stoic coin. I don't know if you've seen like like the Stoic virtues, wisdom, temperance. Temperance is like you don't have to abstain from things. You just have to willingly understand that this isn't great for me in large quantities, and I'm taking small quantities of it. So I had that coin. It's like because I want to live a temperate life, and I have to treat myself like an addict, in a lot of things. And maybe not everybody struggles with it from like an addiction standpoint, but you do have to realize that these things can become latched onto our souls, and that extra weight of being the person you want to be, that addiction or that thing can cling to that what you would otherwise become and hold it down. You have to be willing to acknowledge that.
I myself, like, I don't even try to look at my phone throughout the day because 'cause I'm on my computer most of the time, right? I do try to
Yeah.
I'll take, like, during lunch, be like, "I need a 15-minute reset," because I have it in my schedule. My ideal future, schedule is, like, okay, I'll do some integrator time for 3 hours in the morning, and then I'll do my visionary time in the afternoon, and so I need to have a reset in the day. But back to your point with Instagram, I'm the same way, man. Like, I don't usually watch it, but then, like, it's very easy to get on and be like, "I'm just gonna look at a couple at, like, 9 at night when I'm in bed, getting ready for bed," and then I'll be swiping through, and next thing I know, it's 30 minutes, an hour later, and my wife
Crazy.
has an inbox of, like, 50 reels, and but my mind
Yeah.
like, my mind is, like, I can feel it being, like, tired and mushy, from that
Yeah.
situation. And that goes back to paid ads too. Unfortunately, I think a lot of businesses right now, especially in the gym space, they assume that social media ads are the end all be all. And back to what you were saying with positioning and doing what's right, like, you have to give if your audience, if you're trying to help them, why are you and this goes back to my value, for instance, like, we don't do social media ads, like, we don't do cold outreach. Like, for me
Wow.
and my values, I'm like, dude, I don't like it when random people write me. I'm a connector. Like, I like to connect with people, right? Like, so our marketing solutions derive around that, right? So I think it goes very similar to people and gym owners too. It's okay to be like, no, sorry, man. Like, I'm going this route. Go back to the community, man. Go back to like going to events and like having
Yeah.
a show and all that stuff. But I'm ranting now. We
Well, this is good stuff, man. Can we say this? I think as men, we're two guys talking. Vulnerability, we hear about sensitivity and emotional intelligence. Vulnerability is a big piece of it. Like, if you can just understand who you are as a person, understand that you're not perfect, that you don't have to have the answers for everything. It's hard. It's so hard. Like, even in, we talked about therapy. Like, once you start doing therapy long enough, like, I recommend, like, start doing coaching. Like, when you have the time and you feel like, okay, my mental health is good, it's like, okay, you got really good cleaning at the dentist. You still want to do really good at home care and get it like filling that time you were doing with therapy, with coaching, with whether it's business coaching, life coaching. That stuff's so important, man, because we have these things, we have these blind spots, especially men. I've only ever experienced my life as a man, so I can only speak from that perspective. Not to say that females don't struggle with this too, but I see it all the time in conversations that I have with young guys, older guys. It's just like, why is it so hard for us to be vulnerable sometimes? To admit that we're wrong, to understand that, hey, look, I want to be here in life. And if I don't remove these obstacles, I'm not going to get there. It's kind of like the same thing you're saying with your brand. Like, you have to have the vulnerability. You have to have the realization that you're not invincible. You can't do it all. And that you don't have to follow the beaten path. You can clear your own path. And if you don't want to do, certain social media ads, if you want to zig instead of zag, guess what? Like, yeah, people might try to ridicule you and, like, talk crap or like whatever. But guess what? At the end of the day, if you're not hurting anybody, you're helping your vision for success being, becoming what you want to become. You just keep forging in that direction.
Yeah.
And so I'd really admonish guys to be vulnerable, have those conversations with yourself, sit in silence. I'm a big fan of journaling. Like, take it out of here and put it on those pages. That's so important for understanding who you are and what you want to become.
I actually did about a 15-minute meditation right before this uh,
Nice.
I've started to. Funny enough, I got my Garment watch just for my birthday, which I just turned 39, so we were the same age for a little bit. Oh,
Dude, yeah. We're the same age. That's
uh,
great.
and, uh, and I got my Garment watch just for my birthday, and, I don't buy things, so it took me, like, 3 months to finally make the purchase because I just don't like things,
Yeah.
and been able to start tracking my sleep a little bit more, and I'm seeing with the 3 kids, I don't get REM sleep, because
Yeah.
I wake up at 3, 4 in the morning because my kid my youngest is about 7 months now, uh, and so I've been the last 2 days, I've been tired, just tired, and so I'm like, "You know what?" Like, I'm actually gonna be okay with taking a 30-minute nap and then meditating for 15 minutes
Yeah, man.
in the morning,
Self
like
care.
yeah,
You
like, have
you
to, right?
you owe that to yourself, bro.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, but I
Absolutely.
don't wanna keep you any longer, we've spent over an hour here, we could probably go all day here, so, um why don't we do this? I want people to be able to contact you and figure out how you can help them. So why don't you tell anyone who's watching this cast how you can help them and how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, I love to run everything through LinkedIn. It's kind of like the start of my funnel, and puts a face to the name. I get to connect with you. We get to share some information. So LinkedIn's a great way to contact me. It's Nathan, and then Hyland's my last name, Hy as in Yankee, Land. Yeah, would love to hear from you if there's anything you feel like I can help you with.
Yeah, and I'll definitely put those in the show notes down below on the YouTube video as well as the podcast, the audio version as well. But Nathan, it was really a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to possibly having you on again in the future. See where everything's going with the updates. I'll want an updates a year from now, so maybe we'll have you on again in 6 months to a year from now.
That would be cool. I really appreciate you having me on. Glad we
Well,
finally get to connect, man.
yeah, definitely. Well, again, thank you for being on, and this is another episode of the Gym Break Cast, and I hope everyone has a good one.